Good evening to everybody. I'm Professor Biggeri from the University of Florence, Department of Economics and Management. And today I'm going to present for the European University for Wellbeing, where there is a very interesting consortium among our university about the framework of human development and capability approach for onco-geriatrics. So the idea of the capability approach and human development is to bring a different understanding of human well-being, where participation and freedom are central to economic and social objectives. The figures that have somehow influenced this approach, the capability approach, as well as human development, are Amartya Sen and Martha Nussbaum. Amartya Sen is the Nobel Prize in Economics, and Martha Nussbaum is from the University of Chicago. Amartya Sen is a well-known economist as well as philosopher, while Martha Nussbaum, she is a philosopher. They found the capability approach into the thought of Aristotle and also Marx. So what are the concepts and definitions that are relevant to know when you're going to use the capability approach? Well, first of all, that well-being and development are analyzed according to people's capability to function and the opportunity they have to be and to do what they find valuable. This is why it's so important for the class of today, of the seminar today. And another very important point is functioning. Is another concept that is so important. Doing and being that makes life valuable. And this means being healthy, working, resting, being literate, and so on. Capabilities are the freedom to achieve function. So they are quite central in this approach, and they link what we have in terms of resources, characteristics, and conversion factors, and how these are going to be translated into opportunities thanks to our abilities. It is clear that if we have some problems related to our health, this is going to influence our capacity to convert services and goods and services into freedoms, into opportunities. This is quite central to our discussion today. So this freedom, the freedom that someone has, an individual, do depends strongly on conversion factors. And in particular, these conversion factors could be individual or social and economic, as well political and civil rights. So these conversion factors could be very much related to the system where we live, the welfare state, the healthcare, as well as the possibility that we may have in the debate, in public discussion and decision, which is quite clear and very important for public scrutiny. But what I would focus more today is the individual conversion factors. They are very important in determining freedom. And although some of them are, let's say, static, others do change according to our age, to our gender, to our talent, and to the fact that often we face impairments. So this is a point that is quite central. According to the age I have, the maturity, talent, I will face some barriers. And these barriers may reduce our capacity to transform goods and services into opportunities and capabilities, which connect the opportunity and ability, which are quite central to this point. The capability approach tries somehow to divert usual economic approaches that focus on economics on people capabilities. And so it is more a people-centered approach and an opportunity-based approach, where the objective is the capability expansion, or at least is to have those capabilities that you value as relevant. The idea is that social evaluation and policy, considering the quality of life, means considering the freedom of people to live the life they want, the life they find valuable. And we know that our life is changing. Our conversion factor, our personal conversion factor change, as well things around us are changing. So the social and environmental conventional factors that I was mentioning before. So we may have the same characteristics, the same individual conversion factors, what we may live in different countries or in different parts of our countries. And this means that we will have different opportunities. So well-being and development should be analyzed from the point of view of people's capabilities to function. So the opportunities, abilities they have to do what they want and aspire to. This approach is very much multidimensional. So it is already challenging the economic understanding of our life, quality of life. So this is the example of the first list made by Nussbaum on central human capabilities, then she reproduced in the book of 2000. So life, body health, body integrity, sense, thought, imagination, emotion, practical reason, affiliation, other species, play, controls over one's environment. So it is a very important framework that is coming out from this capability approach. Although there are differences between Nussbaum and Sen, Nussbaum has produced a list of capability and she defended it according to principles and rights, while Sen opened this list quite to the public debate and public scrutiny. There is a very interesting research project, for instance, in health by Johanna Kos, and where she is asking to the patient in the hospitals what they think about are valuable things of their life and how they're relevant and how they are somehow faced by the illness or the impairments. So it's a bit, we could say, is a critique on traditional approaches in welfare economics and utilitarian-based theory. So it is important here to move and understand what means this and what is a capability approach in terms of disability or in terms of health problems. So health problems lead to a severe and enduring form of impairment can affect human flourishing with dramatic multidimensional consequences for person well-being and well-becoming, as well as for the capabilities of other household members. So the disability that we could say is a condition arising from interaction between the infinite range of human diversity and the environment where a person lives, where he, she practices her freedom to achieve the function she has reason to value. This is taken from a paper by Dr. Satrani, Parulbashi, and myself, which is clearly pointing you at how health is related sometimes to some disability or impairments. Although we may not call about disabilities, clearly this is very much linked with the point of onco-aging, where two aspects of our individual conversion factors interact. They interact among each other, so the age in itself may reduce our capacity to convert goods and services into capabilities. At the same time, being conditioned by the oncological problem, we may face other restriction that is going to reduce our opportunities. What is important here is to keep in mind that these opportunities we would like to have in our life that somehow correspond to our quality of life and well-being are multidimensional. So when we face an event that is a cancer diagnostic, for instance, we may face several problems from different perspectives. If we go back to the list made by Nussbaum, this means that we are going to face also our difficulties, for instance, in the capacity to imagine, to our capacity to aspire, in our idea of body integrity. So many things come into our understanding of our opportunities. So it is often very tragic moment of our life when someone get aneurysms. But this doesn't stop our and it means that life continues. And so it is very important to make a step further and to think how the capability approach can help the next point, which means try to expand again the capability set that has been contracted by onco-aging condition. So a person, it's clearly that this condition is going to influence person conversion factors, especially if interaction with the system of values, aspiration, and external condition, as I said, social and environmental, well, could lead to transient or permanent condition of disability. In the case of onco-aging, it's clearly that when you are facing your medical care at the hospital, the day after you will be somehow extra, you will face an extra contraction of your capability set, because the effect of chemotherapy, for instance, is going to create a lot of problems which reduce several opportunities, the opportunities to go out, to meet friends. And these interact with other factors that may you face as in general conversion factor and social conversion factors, and in this period of pandemic, even more. So an onco-aging patient has specific needs. As a consequence, she requires additional resources in order to avoid or mitigate multidimensional deprivation. This is something that Sen has, Amartya Sen has discussed in 1980 already, when he was working on entitlement, and later on in 2004. I have reproduced a diagram made by Ingrid Roybens in 2005 to explain to you how these things are really connected. So the point of view, the capability approach, is this idea of focusing on people, focusing on their agency, which means on their commitment to meet what they value in their life and what other people value, but at the same time, other elements that altogether forms this way of thinking. This is obviously, as is written by Ingrid Roybens, a simplified version and a stylized non-dynamic representation of a person's capability set and the social and personal context of this person. So you can start either from the left or the right, and you may start from here, where you have goods and services, okay? These goods and services have to be transformed into opportunities. And these are very much depending on individual conversion factors, as well as social institutions, social norms, and goods and services that are available. Which means that if your individual conversion factors change, your capability set is going to shrink. And then you will have less choices. But these choices is depending themselves from personal history and psychology, and I would say attitude, as well as preference formation mechanism and social influencing. So if you have, if you are in a situation of an oncological treatment, you may face some preference formation, and you may decide according to your history, according to your attitude and the moment you are going through and the support you are having around you, if to use and choose to make that opportunity available or not to you. And so then you will reach some achieved functioning. So what happened? You will see later that you will face a shrink in your capability set, but this is not enough. Often is your characteristic, the opportunity you have around surrounding you, including the environmental condition and so on, is going to influence your choice. And you may have the opportunity, but you decide not to achieve that opportunity. For instance, you are used to go on holiday, but you decide not to go on holiday because you feel that you cannot. And this is not your, you have the opportunity, but you decide not to do for several reasons. And this may not be a good choice if this is important. I have tried during my studies to enlarge this diagram made by Robbins together with Ferranini in order to introduce some evolutionary aspects. This is called the STEP framework. And the idea is that you have to take into consideration not just the individual dynamics that we have seen in the scheme before, but you need to understand also the collective dynamics and how what you do, how the association that are giving, let's say, that are assisting, but also working with person with an oncological treatment are going to do and going to challenge not just the preference formation, but also the political situation, which means that the policies that are made by hospitals that are taking more into consideration what are the aspirations of these people that cannot stop due to the cancer. And then you have the local dynamics. These are very important because you may have extra services, also thanks to association, in order to create new achievement at the hospital level in good and service, but not just that, even much more. So there is a dynamic link which is so important and is also conditioned by the institution, not just at the local level, at the local level system where the people lives, but also the extra local, which means the national level. So going more in deep, if there is an illness that is going to meet the aging of a person, several consequences may emerge. Well, the first is that it has a direct impact also on entitlement of people. So it doesn't mean if you are already in a pension scheme and you are already retired, but for sure, if you are not, you will need to take some income losses. Plus, you cannot follow your different type of, let's say, a different type of income source that you may have, not just the retirement. So this will have an impact on the goods and services that are available to you. So it depends on the system at the national level, at the local level, if they sustain your effort. Then there is an individual aspect that is going to impact your conversion factors, especially is going to face your individual conversion factors. Obviously, we are talking in general. In some cases, the type of treatment is not so strong, and this means that you will not have huge effect in this step. But when the treatment is strong, well, you will feel debilitated. You will not have the same capacity to follow. And this means that you need extra goods and services in order to allow you, also from a psychological point of view, to maintain your, at least to mitigate your capability set shrink. At the same time, this is going to influence your psychology and attitude, which means that in the process of choice, this is so important. So you need to have a psychological support. Otherwise, you are going to not take in your opportunities, and this is going to reduce your agency and empowerment, even your, obviously, your achieved functions. Okay. So when we talk about this, it's a process of interaction that is going to influence all the process of choice and the individual achieved function. So this is at the core of my presentation, and it means that the policy that you may implement at the hospital level is very much linked to the understanding, but obviously extra hospital is so important. Then it's clear that when you're going to influence your achieved functionings, your goods and services that are available, so your individual inputs as means to achieve, it's clear that you have difficulties, okay? Also for the household, in the family, people will probably will have to reduce their job or have to leave the job for a period in order to follow the condition of person with the treatment. And this is something that has very important consequences, not just economic consequences or time use and consuming consequences, but also very much emotional. And these emotional clearly are going to create psychological stress and so different type of aptitudes towards the future. And at the end of the story, it's clearly that there is an impact on achieved functioning, agency, and empowerment, not just of the person that is treated, but also by the household members or the person that are close to he or she. It's clearly that here social institutional context is so important because it's going to challenge and to create new opportunities. If you live in different territories of the same country, you may face, like Italy, different approaches, different presence of associations, or different type of services, but also among European countries, for instance. So our well-being is very much depending on the context where we are, but also on our willingness and our capacity to support and be supported by other people. This is going to change the collective choice and policy. So there is a process that is so important, and it's so important because the individual level can be supported by collective agency and social empowerment, which are through association very often going to challenge the preference mechanism formation, helping people to make choice that increase the well-being of person under treatment or influence social decision, with reducing the social stigma. And this is very important because this political action is going to challenge also the quality of our system, which is this part. And this is going to influence the collective choice and policy. And so different territorial achievement functioning, different services that are provided, and this is probably the final element. So what is the conclusion? Keeping the highest possible level of quality of life for onco-geriatrics patients is achievable by taking care of biomedical aspects, but also by working on terms of creative adaptation or examptation to foster patients' ability to structure or restructure a project of life currently with their own values, aspirations, and ideas about what is a good life. And this obviously has to take into consideration those who live close to these onco-geriatrics patients, strengthening the link between older patients with oncological problems, their medical staff, but the social context. This is the message that is can be taken by the capability approach. There are several papers that are using the capability approach framework and the human development idea in the health sector. And so I hope you enjoyed the class, the seminar.